been monitoring the media and the contributions of the media over the past few weeks, few months, if you like. And so we would have observed some critical areas would have been pointed out, and we thought we could use the opportunity to sort of clarify some of those areas and also highlight some of the key developmental activities that would have been happening at the GFF. I'd like to introduce the members of the head table, starting from my immediate right, the Technical Director, Mr. Ian Greenwood. We then have President Forde. Next to Mr. Forde, we have Bryan Joseph, who is the Youth Development Officer, and as you know, they are the key movers and shakers of the technical program at the GFF. So we'll start with Mr. Forde, have some opening comments, and then we'll move over to Mr. Greenwood, followed by Mr. Joseph.
Thank you, Ms. Francis. Pleasant good morning to my good friends of the media. I just want to start off by reassuring the media of some of the key features of the Guyana Football Federation Executive Committee and leadership. We value the work and the support that the media has given to the Football Federation over the past couple of years, in particular to my administration. We appreciate the level of scrutiny that the sport receives. We believe it's good for the sport, for the general public, and for the key stakeholders. And we want to do everything within our power to grow and improve that relationship. However, as any responsible organization would do, we do conduct content analysis, and we have noticed a pattern emerging that is the reason for this press conference today. We have noticed a particular section of the media have been particularly critical of the work of the Guyana Football Federation and seems to have been locking their focus on all matters that may be considered salacious and can malign the good efforts of the Guyana Football Federation. We think it's unfortunate, but we respect the right of all of our media partners to pursue whatever course they wish to pursue. So the one that really struck us very hard is an article that appeared a few days ago that seems to suggest to the public that the Academy Training Center program has collapsed. And of course that goes against my work and the vision that I bring to football development in Guyana and the exceptional work my Technical Director, Mr. Greenwood, has been doing, and his team, including Bryan and some of the technical development officers that are in the fields every weekend working with the kids. So we want to provide the information to the media. We're going to provide some details, and we're open to answering any questions that you may have. But just let me also conclude with this. The Guyana Football Federation and the Executive Committee, we have been very, very open with the public and our stakeholders and our members regarding the challenges that we inherited, more so with our status with FIFA, that subsequently affected our funding. The tremendous amount of work that we've done was only possible because of the will to push our agenda forward and also the support that we received from our partners. We have returned Guyana to full compliance with FIFA, and the mechanics of full compliance is being undertaken right now, which will see the funding that was always due to us come in. We will repair our relationships with our suppliers and get some of the programs that have been on the drawing board for the past 2 years up and running. It is important that we emphasize that the level of activity that this institution has been involved in for the past 2.5 years, I think, is completely unprecedented. Anyone with a fair pair of eyes that have been looking into the Guyana Football Federation would recognize the pace at which we've been moving is completely unprecedented. And I've been around for a very, very long time, more than 2 decades. And I know, as I sat on the other side of this institution for many years. And we've been doing all of that without the requisite support and funding. So while we know that there are other agendas at play, it is below me as president of the institution to engage at those levels. What is important that the public, who may be unsuspected, is not tricked into believing that the Federation is not executing its mandate. So I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Greenwood to speak in more specific details to some of the key things that we've been doing to position Guyana, not just for the future, but for 2026 qualification. Thank you very much.
Okay, good morning. So I'm going to talk about the technical program and have an overview of what's going on, and then Bryan's going to give some specific numbers and actual data to support the player population and what's happening in the academies. So the technical program itself has 4 main components. Number 1 is mass football. Number 2, coach education. Number 3, elite football. Number 4, research and documentation. So one of the big aspects that we've been developing at the GFF is to increase the player population at all the youth levels. Because if we don't have a big enough pool to pick from, then we're going to always be struggling to get enough quality players into the senior national teams, both male and female. So the player population figures are something that we need to discuss and we need to explore as well. And then focusing on the elite program is the academy training centres. Okay, so this is a nationwide program, as we know, where they'll be extracting the top players at the various age groups in each of the regions. Again, Bryan will give the numbers in terms of the structured coaching hours every single week, the number of players that are participating each week, and also the grassroots programs as well. The media is of course welcome to attend any ATC session any week in any region that you want to turn up to. You just have to speak to Miss Francis and just say, we want to see what's happening in Berbice, can we go to one of the ATC sessions? No problem. Georgetown, no problem. So if you guys want to come down and have a look, that's perfectly fine. We're open to that, no problem. In terms of the number of academies that we have, their main role is to extract the top players to bring them into the national team programs. Over the last sort of 12 months or so, we've had 13 national team camps at the various age groups, which again is something that we've never done before as a federation. We have key targets in this document that we'll be handing out to you guys, so you can look at what's expected of a Guyanese player to get into the senior national team. We talk a lot about the deliberate hours of practice. So by the time a player reaches the senior national team, we're looking at around 10,000 hours of deliberate practice, coming across club football, school football, personal work as directed by the technical development officers, national team camps, and also games in the Milco competitions, the Frank Watson competitions, the under 13 and under 20 inter-association leagues that will be coming on board shortly, as those applications have gone into FIFA for the funding support as well. So we just want to be very, very clear that the Academy Training Centre is the pathway for the national team players. Speaking to a lot of people in Guyana, so Bryan was a former national team player and a former player of the year. When asked about the number of games that he would have played as a youth player, would be what, 1, maybe a year?
3, 4.
3, 4? Okay. So obviously this isn't an environment that's going to produce players. When we hand over to Bryan, he can give the key numbers for the number of players that are playing in the inter-association leagues and also the amount of players that are attending the ATCs. Okay. We still need to expand our player population, especially in the grassroots program. So then there's a clear pathway to develop. When we're looking at coach education as well, up until probably 12 months ago, there was no licensed coaches in the country. We had coaches that had done certain courses back in the day, but as we know in the football world, you have to do CPD to ensure that these qualifications are renewed. So we had coaches that maybe have done a qualification 2001, 2003. By the next year, they haven't done the CPD hours, so that qualification is redundant, is no longer valid. So we've done a lot of work with CONCACAF to get registered coaches now. We have 50 licensed coaches in the country, so we've gone from 0 to 50. We now have 3 trained CONCACAF instructors as well, something that Guyana's never had before. And that is the key message we need to stress, is that we now have licensed coaches. Previously we didn't. These coaches are being utilised both in the academies and also in school programs as well. So recently they were assigned to schools in the Milo competition. Any organisers that are running competitions have full access to the technical department and the licensed coaches to go in and help develop school football or various club football that we have. So again, that is something we always want to put out there, that we need the licensed coaches working with the players themselves. And I think the strides that we've done with CONCACAF and the GFF are showing a massive improvement in the quality of players that we're having. In youth football internationally, every competition the youth teams have been involved in now, we've been on the CONCACAF technical study group list for the way that we're trying to play. So if you come and watch some of the youth teams playing international competition, it's chalk and cheese from where it might have been before, where there was a lot of pace and power but no real structure in how we're moving the ball through the thirds. So all that documentation is with CONCACAF as well, specifically looking at the under-17s in Martinique, the under-15 boys as well, who we know won the tournament in St Martin. So again, in this year when the under-17 and under-20 qualifiers are on board, we can again see an improvement in a style of play. So we're very, very happy with what's going on. We do have to stress though that this is a long-term plan. It cannot change overnight. Everything that we're doing, foundation blocks, is geared towards 2026 and 2030 in the World Cup qualification process. So if we look at our under-11s and under-13s in the academies and the grassroots programs now, they're going to be our key group to develop over the next 10 years, 8 to 10 years to get through that program. I think when we have our under-13 group participating in Trinidad later in July, we'll see sort of the improvement that they've made over the last six and 7 months, and we're very, very confident with the quality of players that we're starting to develop. We know we've always had quality players like Walter Moore, players like Jackie Chan, that have come through predominantly by themselves. Now if they had that system in place, Richardson should have been a mainstay in the MLS, we all know that, but he didn't have the full structure that is now available to the younger players across the country. So we're very, very confident over the next few years that we will continue to develop exceptional players within the CFU region. So we'll pass over to Bryan, who's going to give you a breakdown of the various numbers and the training hours in the academies.
All right, thank you. What I have here is a document that obviously we'll make available to you guys, so you can scrutinize. But I want to emphasize that the youth structure that is in place now, like the TD mentioned earlier, has moved from 0 to 100 miles per hour in 2.5 years. And obviously this augurs well for the development of football in the country. We now have the 9 academies functioning. They're basically doing 6 specific sessions per week, and that's from under 13s to under 17s. And in addition, they're also doing grassroots sessions. This equates to basically 12 hours per week. The staff doing 12 hours per week, 156 hours nationwide, right? And basically around 700 hours a month. All that is on top of what we never had before. As you guys may have known, you know, in the past there was no national youth structure, none whatsoever. This is brand new. This is the players who are experiencing this are the first group of players that are experiencing it. And as we know from 2017, where Guyana actually won its first international youth tournament after football in existence for over 114 years or so, this came directly out of the structure that was put in place by the technical team. All right. In terms of the population, we now over the ATCs, we have approximately 16 players per age group that are being trained weekly. Right, at least 16 players. That equates to 208 youngsters being exposed to certified D-licensed coaches handling sessions that are being distributed by the technical department. So these are not coaches going out there and coach whatever they feel like or whatever they want to do. These are programs that are being worked on here in the technical department based on the playing philosophy that we want to use to go forward. And this is the information that is being passed to players every single week. And this is 208, approximately 208 players across the academies for each age group. All right? And also just to emphasize, this is not just any player. This is players that we've selected based on the coaches going out there, observing matches, identifying who the better talents are, and then bringing them into the structure. All right? We also have, obviously, the Milko under 17 that was played. Like the TD would have mentioned, I, being a former national player, coming through the ranks, would have played 3 or 4 youth games per year. Everything else was probably a practice, a scrubby somewhere. That's what it was. Then the Milko on the 17 and the Frank Watson on the 15 has changed the dynamics for youth football in this country. Big time. Right? Big time. For example, the Milko on the 17 tournament that was completed, they had a total of 515 matches countrywide. 515 matches countrywide. Over 1,000 players involved. Over 1,000 youth players involved. Right? For example, think of Berbice. We know in the structure of football in Guyana, Berbice has always been one of the weaker areas. But in Berbice, they had 101 on the 17 matches played last year in one tournament, in the Milko tournament. 101. They had 10 teams. They had 10 teams participate in that tournament in a league format playing 2 rounds. That's 101 matches. Right? East Bank. East Bank was just awarded the best association. They actually played 187 on the 17 matches in the Milko tournament. All right? For the Frank Watson, it's same thing. It's over 1,000 players being exposed to 244 matches. The Frank Watson is played in a single round format. All right? So this is totally unprecedented for Guyana football, as we know. And this goes directly towards our goal for 2026 World Cup. The players must have the hours under their belt. And as we know, if you're playing 4 matches or 5 matches every year, that does nothing to the 10,000 hours that you need to develop. It does nothing. If you're doing 55, 60 matches, it plays a big part in that. All right? In terms of national team camps, I know that's something that the TD could have touched on just now, but in terms of camps, we've moved from a situation where Guyana has always operated a national team camp only prior to a tournament. Only prior to a tournament. And in a lot of cases, as you would know, it's 10 days, 12 days before a national team international tournament. Then we're bringing players together to have a national team camp in preparation. That no longer exists. All right? Now we're having camps months before. We're having assessment camps, we're having development camps, and we're having camps directly geared towards the preparation of a particular tournament. All right? We've also moved from a position of holding trials where we bring 60 to 70 kids together for 2 hours and we try to select the best to make the Guyana national team. We've moved past that. And now we're in a situation where the kids are in an academy, they're being assessed, they're being scored at every session. So when we're ready to select the better players, we're looking at those numbers. We're talking to the ATC coaches to find out who are the better ones, what qualities they have, and that determines the selection. All right, so as you know, this is all totally new stuff to Guyana. It's a big part of our development going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bryan. Any other additional comments? If not, we're open for your questions at this point. Any questions that you may have, just indicate and we'll take it. Newsroom.
For clarification purposes, are the academies for any football player or for players who coaches have identified?
the grassroots that the academies run is open to any player 5 to 12 years old. Any player, and it's free. The other programs from the U13 to the U17, it's an identification of the best players in that association coming to the academy. All right, so all the different age groups, it's an identification based on scouting done by the ATC coaches that have gone out, looked at club matches, looked at school matches, identify these individuals and bring them in to form the core of that unit.
The reason why I asked the question, for instance, if I'm a player in that age category and maybe I'm borderline good, how now do I find myself in a situation where I could progress from one stage to the next if I'm not a part of such an academy?
Well, the academy is not a standalone structure. The clubs have a responsibility also. All right, the clubs have a responsibility to prepare the players. You know, we provide opportunities through the national program, the national competitions. So there's a platform for this player who's being prepared by a club coach to shine. We're there at all these competitions, observing. We have the ATC coaches there, we have the technical team there, and we're observing and we're identifying and extracting players all the time. For clarification also, that group is not a fixed group. So if we have a group of players there, we're assessing them every week, every session, and then we go out there and we recognize, hey, we just find another youngster. We bring him in also, right? And so that player gets an opportunity.
They normally obviously call some of the fix or some of the padding. However, because they want the numbers call, could you give me a breakdown from every zone to the 80s? Every zone to the 50. You don't have to give me the number. If you give me the documentation, every zone to the 80s, every zone to the under 70, every zone to the under 50, and the respective coaches that are attached to it. Because in the under 50, Joshua hasn't played season Ian. They call Joshua.
Yeah. You're talking the Milko.
No, that was the under 50.
Frank Watson. Great.
Let me answer that.
And we know GFF has the issue right now.
Yeah.
But could you furnish me with those information? Not now. You can furnish them that could still take place.
So we'll provide all the information, Mr. Saul. Thanks for the question. I think when you said Georgetown has its issue, that's probably putting it mildly. The Federation has undertaken to, unfortunately, to ask the Georgetown Football Association leadership to return all the material and funding that was provided for the under 15 Frank Watson more than a year now. And we cannot, for the best effort, understand why they've been unable to organize that competition. So I think the competitions department is actively registering the clubs. I think the last update I got, we had 8 clubs registered and we're trying to get all the clubs registered. So the Federation will go ahead and get that tournament kick off, because it's creating a problem for what we want to do with the Champions of Champions playoff. For all of these youth tournaments, we're looking at the budget, we want to bring either the number 1 and 2 into a national playoff so we can know which association has the best under 15, or we bring one based on how we can finance it. So yes, they haven't, and we're doing whatever we can do to get that tournament off the ground. I wish I could say why they haven't been able to do it, but for being directly involved in the operation of football at the club level, if you're given all the balls, the goal nets, the trophies, and the funding, and you cannot bring off a youth tournament, then there's something fundamentally wrong, and that is the situation as it stands right now. Reshuffle. Well, it's not a simple case of reshuffling. The Federation is not involved in reshuffling membership. Similar to the GFF administration, we have a membership body that must pronounce on the value of the work and the extent to which they think we're delivering our members, on our mandate, I may add. So the clubs affiliated to the GFA will have to take a decision as to whether they feel that their interests or their players were served during this period.
Yes, Mr. Back to you. all the associations, like, every single one, inclusive of SCA. Now, the information I ask people to come, I have left out all the information on all those, so, as well as, is this a press conference open to other questions from television or financial questions?
You're free to ask.
And
once they're in a position to respond, they will.
Okay, I have several questions. One, what is the status of the Forde investigation?
The status remained the same as was communicated the last time. It's an ongoing investigation, and when we're in a position where we can make the information available to the public, we will do so. I think we've demonstrated our posture with regards to accountability and transparency sufficiently. So I would encourage the members of the media to be patient. We will make the information available. Federation leadership has absolutely nothing to gain from not treating that matter with the seriousness it deserves.
No, you didn't make that I was going to ask.
That's what we get for being the president.
Sorry. I was going to ask as well if the individuals who are undertaking the process, are they affiliated to the GFF?
Absolutely not.
Independent and
Absolutely not.
individuals?
I cannot do that. We will, once we have the right, because these matters are sensitive, as you would imagine, as an experienced journalist, they have legal ramifications. So once we have the final report and we consult appropriately with our legal representative, we will know how far we can go with making the information that we think will be useful to the public release.
Before you go on, Duncan, I know you have additional questions that are not exactly keeping with the mandate of the press conference, but if you have any other questions, members of the media, we can take those that were relative to the primary areas and then we can return to Duncan. No? All right, Duncan, you can speak.
You were once promised to have initiated the report the 2017 June Congress, and that process being started.
Yes.
Given the fact that Congress will table a motion at the December Congress asking for the matter to be expedited, did the process start?
Yes, I'm actually.
Who is facing the process?
Thank you for the question. And one of the things that we had reported to Congress, I think it was in December, is that in order to conduct the level of investigation that matter requires, we have to make some investment. It's a very delicate matter with many angles to it, so we have no choice but to do it the right way. So at the Congress that is coming up on the 28th, there's going to be a presentation as to where we are to the membership, and we'll bring them up to speed with how the investigation is proceeding. So that is an ongoing process.
The status of this project?
Which project?
The
Facility. The facility is going very well. Of course, the weather has halted the installation of the playing surface. We visited it yesterday, and much of the effort that the contractor put into the final leveling before the accordion and the geotex is installed was washed away. So once we get some good weather, they're going to return to that exercise, and we anticipate 3 weeks following the recommencement of that, we'll have the turf ready. And then we just to give you a general update on that, what we're going to do with Providence is we're kind of shifting our priority and focus. The key objective is to bring Providence up to a state that is functional for the preparation of our teams. I think I would have shared with the press before that when we bring a team into camp and we have to put them in a hotel, it comes at a cost of about $2,000 a day. That's a lot of money. So what we're doing, the existing building that we've inherited with that facility, we're putting some investment into it, modifying it. We're going to convert the upstairs into a really nice dorm. We're putting in better washrooms, kitchen. The lower flat will become the technical department. Mr. Greenwood and his team will go over there. And the goal is to have our teams in every weekend and as often as possible. So we can bring the kids in every weekend, work with them from Friday afternoon all the way to Sunday afternoon and send them back out. While that is happening, we'll continue the construction of the other facility, and once we get around to that building, if the designers feel that that building can be integrated into the overall design, then that will be done. If not, it will be demolished and the new structure will go up. The functional state means that we've already ordered the stands. We have 4 aluminum prefab stands coming in. They'll have a total capacity somewhere around 1,000 to 1,500. We're looking at what we do about washroom facilities. So ultimately, we want to get to a point where we can host a certain level of games at the facility, but the key driver is being able to bring the teams in for encampment and just have them there and work with them 2-3 times a day over the course of a weekend and get them back out, because the goal is to lift the quality of players that we're producing, and everything that the TD and Bryan have spoken to is in keeping with that goal.
Any other questions?
Would the GFF recognizing Advanced Player Association as an important body?
I think the real question really is how do we as a body ensure that the interests of our players, regardless of our status within the world football structure, which is Guyana is seen primarily as an amateur country. We don't have some of the complexities that a player body similar to the one that you're pushing for. We don't have that. We don't have those complex contract issues because we're still typically an amateur country. For me, the important focus would be those obligations from club, association, and federation that are inherent to us taking care of our players. How well we're meeting those obligations would be where I would want to put the energy. And instead of considering the establishment of a player body or a union, I would prefer a relationship where the membership and the players, the association, the clubs continue to engage each other and ensure that the expectations are clear and that each party is doing its part to deliver on those expectations. I think in the general realm though of Guyana football, despite our challenges, I think we have been able to meet our players as best as we can on our levels. I think it's premature to get into that. And if you really think about it, what are the complexities that body would need to do? In our constitution, we have a committee that I think we have a provision for a committee that's called the Player Status Committee. Of course, the terms of reference for that is slightly different, but when I looked at it, I think that we can, because the EXCO do have the powers to modify the terms of reference, and we could probably create a body that can focus, that can cover some of those areas that I sense that might be the motivation for the Players Association body. Yeah, but I think
especially given the fact that 60 nations are affiliated for people recognized. Obviously, this is we would know. I think that we would know that England is one of those who are attached to it. And why not GFF create an independent one that can be affiliated with them with getting necessary funding as well?
Right. So the answer to that is very simple again. We don't think that the way that players associations are set up and the key areas of interest that they should be focusing on in other parts of the world exist here. I think we are still an amateur country in terms of world football, and the emphasis and the investment should be focused on the federation, its association, and its club meeting some of the basic obligations towards the players. I think that is where we would like to invest the time and resources going forward.
The last question would have been basically, given the recently concluded award ceremony, could you state who was the panelist that selected the winners?
It was a comprehensive internal panel with some of our external members providing consultation on the selection process.